Learn English podcast.
From English Chat Café.
Welcome back to Learn English podcast from English Chat Café. In today's episode, we'll help you find your voice in the workplace. I'm Jamie, your communication coach.
And I'm Alex, your resident learner and, let's be honest, recovering meeting wallflower.
Today, Alex, we're tackling a topic that strikes fear into the hearts of so many. How to speak up in meetings, even if you're shy. Our goal isn't just to make you speak, but to teach you the practical, polite, and professional English phrases that make your contributions count. You'll walk away with a toolkit for confidence.
Thank goodness. I often leave meetings feeling frustrated. Like I had great ideas, but the mute button was stuck on my brain. It's like a secret language everyone else knows.
Well, we're giving you the cheat sheet today. Let's start with why. Alex, tell me about a time you stayed silent and regretted it.
Oh, I remember my very first team meeting. We were brainstorming a new marketing campaign slogan. I had this idea, a really clever one I thought, but I kept waiting for the perfect moment. I rehearsed the line in my head over and over. Then, 5 minutes later, a colleague said almost the exact same thing.
Ugh, the worst. What happened next?
Everyone praised him. The manager said, "That's brilliant, Mark. Why didn't anyone think of that sooner?" And I just sat there. My idea gone, my chance lost. I didn't get credit, and frankly, I felt invisible for the rest of the week.
That is a classic painful scenario, but it perfectly illustrates why this is so important. According to research cited in the Harvard Business Review, people who speak up consistently are perceived as more engaged, more influential, and are ultimately more likely to be promoted.
So it's not just about ego, it's about career progression.
Strategically, exactly. Silence can be misread. Your colleagues might assume you don't have an opinion, you aren't paying attention, or even that you don't fully understand the project. We need to flip that script. Your voice is a professional asset. This isn't just about output, it's about presence. Psychologically, let's dig deeper into the psychology of silence. The reason shy people wait for the perfect moment is often rooted in what researchers call the imposter cycle or perfectionism trap. You hold your idea until it's perfectly worded and perfectly timed. And because perfection rarely exists in a dynamic meeting, you never speak. When you finally do, you're often so mentally drained from the anxiety that you stumble. To break this cycle, you must accept that imperfect participation is infinitely better than perfect silence. Your goal is to contribute to the discussion, not to deliver a flawless TED Talk. Furthermore, think about the cognitive load. When you keep an idea bottled up, you're dividing your attention between what's currently being said and your own unsaid thought. You're not fully listening, and that leads to more missed opportunities. By speaking up early, even with a small clarifying question, you clear your mental cache and become a much more effective participant for the rest of the meeting. This is a crucial shift in mindset. Speaking is a tool for better listening and processing, not just a performance. Now, let's get into the framework to help you use it. We call this the PEP framework: prepare, enter, and project. Actionably. P is for prepare. Don't walk into the meeting hoping inspiration will strike. You need a pre-planned way in. Look at the agenda beforehand and choose 1 or 2 topics where you can genuinely contribute. Your preparation should include a few pre-written, flexible phrases. Let's look at a key psychological hack here. Amy Cuddy's research on power posing suggests that simply changing your body language, standing tall, taking up space, even for a couple of minutes before a high-stakes moment, can actually reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, and increase testosterone, the confidence hormone.
So a quick power pose in the bathroom before the big meeting?
Absolutely. It's about leveraging psychology to manage the physical anxiety of speaking. Now for the English. Prepare a question and a support statement.
Give me the phrases.
The prepared question. I just want to clarify one point before we move on. Could you elaborate on the timeline for X? The prepared support. I agree with Name's point. From my perspective in your department, we see a similar need for Y. Preparing these makes the first few words less terrifying. E is for enter. This is the hardest part, breaking the silence. Shy people often wait for a vacuum in the conversation, but in fast-paced meetings, that vacuum never comes. You need to interrupt politely.
Interruption feels rude, especially if English isn't your first language. I worry about being perceived as aggressive.
That's why we use polite, professional interjections. Think of them as verbal placeholders that signal, I have something to say. Here is the polite interruption phrasebook. 1. To jump in on an idea. If I could just build on that point. 2. To transition from one speaker. Before we move on to the next slide, I have a quick question about this data. 3. The softest entry. Just a quick thought on that.
If I could just build on that point, I think the budget needs to be reviewed. That sounds professional and not too aggressive.
Perfect. It signals your intent while showing respect for the previous speaker's contribution. P is for project. Once you have the floor, you need your words to land with impact. This isn't just about what you say, but how you say it.
I struggle with rambling. I get nervous and suddenly I'm talking about 3 different things at once.
Structurally, let's use the point, reason, example structure. It keeps you concise and authoritative. Point. I recommend we launch this campaign in Q2. Reason. Because Q2 aligns perfectly with our peak sales season for this product. Example. Last year, the Q2 launch saw a 30% higher conversion rate than Q1. This structure works for positive contributions, but what about when you have to disagree? Disagreement is critical for innovation, but it requires finesse. Never start with no or that's wrong. Instead, use softening language to critique the idea, not the person. Here are professional phrases for disagreement. 1. Soft but firm disagreement. I see where you're coming from, but I have a slight concern about X. 2. Challenging assumptions. That's a compelling idea. Have we considered the implications for the Y team, though? 3. Suggesting an alternative. I respectfully disagree with the final proposal, but I wonder if exploring a hybrid model could address both of our points. Using phrases like slight concern or respectfully disagree makes your intervention sound collaborative, not confrontational. You are contributing to a better outcome, not just winning an argument. Remember to always pivot back to a solution. The best contributions are constructive.
Wow, that's crisp. And those phrases for disagreement take the emotional risk out of saying no.
And linguistically, when you want to make a strong recommendation, don't say, maybe we should, or I think we could. Use direct, confident language. I propose, my recommendation is, or we should prioritize. That language projects confidence and expertise. Okay, Alex, let's run a quick role play. We are in a team strategy meeting. I've just finished talking about a potential new vendor, and you have some data to share that might shift our direction. I'm going to pause for one beat, and you have to use an entry phrase to jump in. Ready?
Ready.
So, in conclusion, while the pricing for vendor A is 10% higher than vendor B, their suite of services is more comprehensive. I think we are leaning toward A, but I'll open it up for comments now.
If I could just build on that point, I have a bit of internal data to share that might influence the decision on vendor A.
Go ahead, Alex. We're listening.
Thank you. My recommendation is we hold off on vendor A for now. The reason is their key software integration, which is crucial for our Q4 strategy, has shown significant instability in our pilot tests over the last 2 weeks. For example, the team reported 3 system crashes just yesterday, which could seriously jeopardize our launch timeline. I respectfully disagree with moving forward on vendor A right now, and I propose we look closer at vendor C's stability reports.
That is critical information, Alex. Thank you for bringing that to the table. We would have made a costly mistake. Let's pivot to looking at vendor C.
Phew, I actually did it. The phrases felt like armor. They gave me a structure to lean on.
You were professional, concise, and incredibly impactful. You didn't ramble, you used strong professional English, and you changed the direction of a major decision. That's exactly how you turn shyness into influence. Now, Alex, for anyone listening who is still terrified, the key is to start small. Don't aim to dominate the first meeting. Aim for a low-stakes contribution.
What's a low-stakes contribution?
It's a contribution that requires minimal intellectual risk, but gives you practice getting the words out. Here are 3 super easy ways to break the silence. 1. The agenda check. Can we confirm the next steps for this project? Or, just to keep us on track, are we sticking to the 15-minute slot for this topic? 2. The clarifying question. Just to ensure I fully understand, could you repeat that last metric, please? Or, what are the core assumptions we are making here? 3. The complement agreement. That's a brilliant idea, Sarah. I'm excited to see how this plays out.
I can absolutely manage a clarifying question. That feels safe. It actually adds value by showing I'm engaged, but I don't have to offer a groundbreaking strategic recommendation.
Exactly. It's a confidence ladder. You start on the bottom rung with a safe question. You build momentum, and soon you'll be on the top rung, proposing major new strategies. Let's quickly recap our toolkit for mastering meetings. 1. Why speak up? To gain credit, visibility, and be perceived as a leader. HBR. And to break the perfectionism trap. 2. The PEP framework. Prepare a question/support statement. Enter with a polite interjection. If I could just build on that. And project, using the point, reason, example structure, and softening disagreement with phrases like, I see where you're coming from, but... 3. Use confident language. Swap maybe we should for I propose or my recommendation is.
I feel armed. It's less about being the smartest person in the room and more about being the most prepared and having the right professional language tools.
That's the key takeaway. Your ideas are valuable. Don't let shyness or a lack of professional English phrases be the barrier to your success. Tal, here is your challenge for the week, listeners. Try one phrase from our toolkit in your very next meeting. It could be as simple as, just a quick thought on that. Then, tell us what happened. You can share your story on our community forum or tag us on social media.
I'm taking the challenge too. I'm going for the, before we move on, I have a quick question. ... Thank you, Jamie. That was empowering.
And thank you, Alex, for being a brave learner. Until next time, find your voice, be confident, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Confident Communicator. All right, now that we've wrapped up today's discussion, let's go over some key vocabulary from the episode to help reinforce what you've learned. Wallflower is a shy person who stays on the sidelines of a social event, often referring to someone quiet in meetings. For example, Alex described himself as a recovering meeting wallflower. Imperfect participation is the act of contributing to a discussion, even if the idea or phrasing isn't fully polished. For example, to break the cycle of anxiety, remember that imperfect participation is infinitely better than perfect silence. Imposter cycle is a psychological pattern where a person doubts their skills or accomplishments and fears being exposed as a fraud. For example, the imposter cycle is often the root cause of why shy people hold back great ideas. Power posing is a technique involving adopting confident, expansive body postures to influence one's own hormonal and psychological state. For example, Amy Cuddy's research suggests power posing can temporarily increase confidence hormones. PEP framework is a structural model for meeting contribution, standing for prepare, enter, and project. For example, the PEP framework gives you a clear path from silence to speaking up effectively. Verbal placeholder is a short, polite phrase used to interrupt or gain attention in a conversation, signaling you have something to say. For example, entry phrases like, "If I could just build on that," act as effective verbal placeholders. Point reason example is a concise communication structure used to ensure a recommendation or argument is clear, logical, and supported by evidence. For example, use the point reason example structure to avoid rambling and sound more authoritative. Low stakes contribution is a small, safe intervention in a meeting, such as asking a clarifying question, designed to build confidence without major risk. For example, starting with a low-stakes contribution is a great way to warm up and break the silence. Cognitive load is the total amount of mental effort being used in the working memory. For example, keeping an idea bottled up increases your cognitive load, making it harder to listen effectively. To pivot is to change direction, focus, or strategy in a discussion, often based on new information. For example, after Alex presented the data, the manager decided to pivot the discussion to vendor C.
And that's it for today's vocabulary review. We hope these words help you speak with more confidence and clarity. Remember, every time you listen and practice, your English gets stronger. So keep going. You're doing great. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with a friend who's also learning English. See you in the next one.